If you feel like you're standing on, I don't know, quicksand lately, you are definitely not alone.
Right.
Our source material today uses these really powerful analogies, things like sudden violent downpours or uh, unpredictable typhoons.
To describe the times we're living in, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this level of systemic flux, it just requires something radically different than our usual approach.
It absolutely does. And our mission today is to take a deep dive into this concept the sources call Henka, or change.
Anka.
Yeah. We're going to dissect a really fundamental human confusion. This quest for stability, the desire for financial freedom, and the misunderstanding of our own personal innate power.
And they're all connected.
Completely intertwined. We want to show you how.
We're basically challenging a really deeply ingrained assumption that I think most of us carry around every day. So the core question for you is this.
How do you operate?
Right. How do you stop being tossed around by a world in constant flux when you're anchored by these rigid, fixed beliefs?
Yeah.
We're exploring the radical idea that you possess an immediate, infinite creative power right now, but you're just not letting yourself use it.
And we're going to start where that rigidity so often begins. The search for money.
Everybody wants financial freedom. I mean, it feels like the ultimate expression of possibility, doesn't it?
It does. People seek money because they believe it buys freedom. The freedom to, do this, I can do that.
And that desire is fundamentally pure. It's a desire for unlimited possibilities.
The desire is pure, but the method, that's where we get tripped up. What's so fascinating is that people forget that the freedom to do anything is something they already possess.
They just fixate on money.
They fixate on money as the single necessary means to get there.
Okay, let's unpack this a little bit more. So money is just one means,
Yeah.
and a very limited means, among literally infinite possibilities for getting something done.
Infinite. But most of us operate with this huge cognitive blind spot, driven by what the source calls a stubborn, solidified way of thinking.
A solidified belief.
Yeah.
That's the trap.
That's the trap. The moment a financial barrier pops up, the brain instantly defaults to that fixed mindset. I cannot do it without the money.
And then they stop.
They just stop. They stop exploring every other possible avenue, every other means, simply because the most comfortable, well-trodden path money is blocked.
So if we inherently have these infinite means, what is the nature of this infinite power the sources keep talking about? It can sound a little abstract.
It needs to be tangible.
Yeah.
The sources confirm that every person possesses an inherent, infinite power to create and shape their own reality. And this isn't, spiritual jargon.
It's not some new age idea.
No, it's a statement about your basic operating system. This power isn't something you acquire through special training or enlightenment. It's the fundamental creative force that is always, always present.
So you don't need to earn it.
You don't need to earn it. You just need to focus your consciousness on your intention, instead of focusing on the lack of the traditional means like money.
Ah, so the moment we focus on the lack of money, we are literally using our infinite power to create the reality that we are limited.
Exactly. You are affirming the reality where I cannot proceed without money is real and stable, and your inner creator just says, okay, you got it. The whole challenge is recognizing that this dependency is an invented reality.
A choice disguised as a requirement.
Perfectly put.
So if we already have this power, and it's free and it's infinite, why on earth are we all constantly running on this hamster wheel, trying to get the one limited thing, money, that we think gives us permission to use it?
To answer that, we need to look inside. We need to look at the architecture of the self that's doing all that dictating.
Okay, so to understand how to access this power without that filter of money, the source suggests we should view the self as having two main, let's call them consciousnesses.
Right.
First, there's the surface consciousness, or the ego, and second, the higher self, which is basically the subconscious. So how do these two normally interact?
Well, that's the thing. The ego's function is strictly analytical. It's tied to survival in the material world. So it operates based on what it knows, on fear, and on past experiences.
Known quantities.
Exactly. The higher self, on the other hand, is the part of you that's connected to those infinite means we were talking about. It's the boundless, creative source.
And the main challenge is that the ego is always trying to be the CEO of the whole operation.
Precisely. The ego's conscious mind fundamentally cannot understand the higher self. Its tools are logic, analysis, cause and effect.
Right.
So trying to understand the subconscious with the ego is like trying to, measure the ocean with a teaspoon. It's an impossible, frustrating, and just limiting task.
This is where the source material introduces a concept that completely changes the dynamic. It suggests there's this critical third element they found through internal dialogue work.
The neutral self.
The neutral self, yeah. What is that?
This is the breakthrough mechanism. The neutral self is the objective observer. It's the part of you that just watches the conflict between the reactive ego and the silent higher self. It doesn't analyze.
It just notices.
It just notices.
But wait a second, if the ego is always trying to observe and analyze everything, how do you, the listener, know you're engaging your neutral self and not just the ego stepping back a little bit and pretending?
That's a great question. The clarity comes when you recognize the feeling of the neutral self. It's the part of you that just notes, I'm frustrated right now because my ego can't figure this out.
Or, I'm observing my mind insisting I need money for this.
Exactly. The ego wants to fix the frustration. The neutral self merely registers its presence.
So, the realization that this neutral self even exists, the part that observes the conflict, the doubt, the anxiety, that's the bridge.
And here's the crucial step. The breakthrough happens when the neutral observer shifts its focus toward the higher self, completely bypassing the ego's need for an analytical breakdown.
So it's not about analyzing the subconscious.
No, it's about accepting its presence and its infinite scope without needing to intellectually define it. It's an act of pure attention, not effort.
Okay, let's talk about that shift in attention, because it requires letting go of control. And that control is usually driven by our deep-seated need for stability. It seems like we hold two completely contradictory desires. With one hand, we want change and evolution.
And with the other, we want absolute, unshakable permanence.
It's the defining paradox of human existence, isn't it? We fear changing, but we're also frustrated by staying the same.
It is, but the sources are crystal clear on this. In the three-dimensional material world, stability is absolutely non-existent.
That's a huge statement. We build our entire society around creating structures that feel permanent. You know, laws, economies, fixed identities.
And that's exactly why we suffer from friction. Life is defined by constant systemic fluctuation. Seeking permanence in this dimension is structurally impossible.
It's like trying to find a perfectly still spot in the middle of a hurricane.
You can't. It doesn't exist.
But the reality that I cannot live without money, that feels incredibly stable to most people. That belief holds their whole life structure together.
Because you are the creator. That fixed reality is created and sustained by the belief itself. When we believe stability exists, we use our infinite power to maintain the illusion of it through rigid, fixed thinking.
So we become the stabilizing force of our own limitations.
Yes.
So what does the universe, what you call the cosmic mechanic, do when we get completely stagnant or stuck in those limiting beliefs? Does it just leave us there?
No, the universe uses fluctuation or instability as a prompt. It's not a punishment.
It's a vibrational instruction.
That's a great way to put it. If you choose to remain complacent, holding on to the illusion that you're limited, the universe will push instability into your environment. A sudden job loss, a relationship crisis, a financial downturn.
To force you to expand beyond that fixed belief.
It has to. So if you believe I don't have to do anything, the universe will create circumstances that make it impossible for you to do nothing. Stagnation isn't an option in a system designed for growth.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the 3D world is essentially a stage.
It's a stage for the God, which is you, the creative force, to experience, to see, hear, and feel. The world of problems was created from a place where there was fundamentally no problem at all.
It's a game structure designed specifically for win and loss. We actually signed up to play a game where stability is temporary, which is what makes the experience of change and growth possible in the first place.
The problem is the point. When you really get that, the fear of instability just starts to dissolve.
Okay, so if the whole system is designed for constant fluctuation, then the typical human striving for peace and happiness, the fighting, the struggling, forcing things, that starts to look incredibly inefficient.
Right. We operate under this core belief that if we don't strive, we can't be happy.
That's the ego survival manual.
It is. But the source argues that true peace, the state of nirvana, is experienced only when the ego finally falls silent.
But wait, are you telling me the only way to get this silence is to just actively run myself into a wall of exhaustion and despair?
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly painful and counterproductive.
I know it sounds that way.
Why can't I just, meditate my way there or be told to stop struggling and have it work?
Because the ego has a powerful, stubborn will. If peace is given to you by a teacher, or you achieve it through some method you can control, the ego holds on to the hope that it can achieve stability.
And if it has hope, it keeps fighting.
It keeps fighting. So the ego must fight and struggle and search for stability so intensely that it finally reaches a state of utter, personal, undeniable despair.
It has to realize, through its own exhaustive effort, that absolute stability and external peace are just. They're unattainable in this world.
That's the key. Until that point of utter exhaustion is reached, the ego will maintain hope, and therefore it will not fall silent. The search itself has to be exhausted.
So frustration, failure. These aren't punishments for making mistakes. They're actually valuable tools.
They are the greatest opportunities in your life. Frustration is not an instruction to stop trying. It's an instruction to learn from the experience, to change the means you're using, and to fundamentally rethink the objective.
Failure clears out the false pathways that the ego desperately clings to.
It does. And this also clarifies why borrowed peace isn't true peace. If you gain stability by listening to someone else, that security is external. It hasn't been realized internally through your own unique struggle.
And a temporary truce.
Not an absolute peace. Absolute peace is only experienced personally when you realize that everything the ego needs to feel secure was already there the whole time, just hidden by the noise of the struggle.
This realization about fixed thinking creating reality had a monumental and, frankly, shocking impact on the Source's author. He was so struck by this concept, if you believe you can live without money, you create that reality, that he made an immediate high-stakes decision. He quit his job.
That's a real commitment to testing that innate power. It wasn't a gradual transition. It was an abrupt stop to all action driven by the ego's fear.
And the experiment was simple. He stopped spending time trying to earn money and instead focused only on doing what sincerely pleased him.
Even if the ego was screaming in panic about bills and survival.
And the chaos that followed is exactly what the ego fears the most. I mean, he experienced many situations where payments just couldn't be met.
The credit card bill comes in, the rent is due, and the standard societal fix for that problem work is gone.
But the shocking insight came from that pressure. He realized that not being able to pay does not equate to not being able to live.
That's a massive distinction.
It is. It's one that most of us never get the chance to confront because the fear of non-payment forces us right back to work.
And that distinction built trust. By stopping what he thought was necessary for survival, he was forced to see that something else, this mechanism of the higher self, was sustaining him. He was being supported even when his ego insisted he was doomed.
And that process built absolute trust in his own inner sustaining power.
Yes.
And here's the crucial economic shifts he noticed. He started receiving money without working to earn it. The Source draws this really crucial distinction between two things. First, doing what you like to earn money.
Where money is the primary objective.
Right. And second, doing what you like and receiving money as a result.
Where the primary objective is the joy or the creative impulse or the pure desire of the self, the universe responds completely differently when the intention is aligned with joy rather than fear of lack.
So once the ego stops dictating all those necessary actions, rooted in stability and survival, your true desires can finally emerge.
The pure impulses of the self. That's the infinite creative power being unleashed.
We've taken a really deep dive today into this paradox of change, or Henka.
And the limitations of the ego's constant striving and the immediate, unconditional presence of your own innate power.
The search for stability is circular because stability is structurally impossible in this 3D world.
Right. And true peace emerges not from finding stability, but from the ego just exhausting its ability to search for it externally.
And ultimately, the end of seeking is the beginning of finding. When you seek and finally realize that the things the ego desires, absolute certainty, absolute control, can ultimately never be attained.
That is when you stop the cycle. And when you stop seeking, the true self, which already has everything, just sort of emerges from your internal landscape.
So what does this all mean? The Source states that the world of problems was created from a place where nothing was wrong, from a position of absolute completeness.
You are already complete.
You are fundamentally the incomplete you, and that very incompleteness is the entire reason you are here to experience and expand.
So if you accept that your incompleteness is the point,
Then what problem do you truly believe you need to solve today, and what reality is that fixed belief creating for you right now?
I'm all on that one.